Hello everybody, it's the 16th of December today, and this here is kind of typical spruce Christmas tree that you can purchase from the supermarkets and things. This particular one is described as a medium Christmas tree. I'm not quite sure how medium it is when you look at a 6-foot Christmas tree being a large, yeah, here we go. There's the ubiquitous drinks can for scale. I would call this a small Christmas tree, and you may remember this from last year, which is an extra small Christmas tree, and this is a tree I did some work on last year. I paid a few pounds for it. It was covered in glitter, trimmed it up. We've had a bit of dieback over the summer. I've done nothing else to it. And you can tell that, you know, these Christmas trees, they get plunged into pots, and the growers don't care or expect them to last after Christmas. So this one is, well, it survived, and that's an important first stepping point. If I pull it out of the pot, or I slip potted it from a much smaller pot into this pot, believe it or not, you can see it's grown out into the new bonsai compost quite well. Next year I might look to just growing this on, perhaps refining some of these foliage pads a little more, and maybe the year after that I might look to put it into a bonsai pot. The worst thing you can do with a Christmas tree into a bonsai tree, if that's what you want to do, if you want to turn one into a bonsai tree, is rush it. These things, as I say, the growers grow them for Christmas. They don't much care whether they survive afterwards, because 99% of them will get thrown away after Christmas. Things to look out for: there are a couple of types of Christmas tree. Obviously the first type, cut off at the base, no good to us, and then you have two different types. There are pot grown Christmas trees and potted Christmas trees. Now, not much of a difference there in language, but quite a difference in terms of how they have been grown. First of all, we get pot grown Christmas tree. It is literally as it is said. The tree is grown in the pot. The pots are usually plunged into the soil halfway or so. Then they are pulled out of the ground. Any roots coming out of the bottom of the pot are severed away, and you have a tree in a pot. Those are the most likely that you will get to survive. They've had the least amount of trauma to their roots, and then there are the potted Christmas trees. Now these are usually field grown. They're then wrenched out of the ground, and the roots and the soil is just cut away to fit into a round pot, and so they have lost almost all their feeder roots, and so they are savable, but they are much more difficult, and in either case I would advocate leaving an entire year to grow before you tackle them. In some cases longer. But let me just show you a couple of trees that I've been growing for a few years that were literally grown from something like this, and let's get them on the turntable, and then you can see the kind of thing you can make. I love this little tree. It's got huge potential. It's got a lot of ucky moss on it at the moment, which I shall need to clean off for the winter. It did have some aphid attack. We had some browning on the top over summer, but fortunately I was able to spot it in time, and treat the tree, and so it's doing quite well. It really does need a pinching, but I'm not going to do it now for this video. Maybe I'll do one of those. I'll do a follow-up video in the new year where I pinch this tree, and another one. Let's get the other one and show you that. This is more of a multi-stemmed tree. Again, it came from its humble beginnings as a Christmas tree a few years ago. First part of growing it was getting it healthy by leaving it in the same pot and growing it on and letting it regrow its root base. Then a couple of years in a training pot, getting it used to having a shallow root base, and gradually refining the top from there. It's had choppings and wirings and whatnot. Obviously this is a more multi-trunked specimen, but that's how it came. You just need to imagine it as a Christmas tree shape. Again, it's going to have to be chopped back. It has got a bit overgrown this summer, but I wanted it to regain some strength after an aphid attack. So often the best way is just to give the tree a bit of its head and let it grow away and photosynthesize to its heart's content. Again, we'll look at this post-Christmas, I promise. So back with this one and the drinks can for scale. If I pull this tree out of its pot, you can see it is indeed a pot grown tree. It does have root, but it's not all the way through this medium. This is a better quality one than I've seen before. When you pull it out like that, you often end up with half the soil on the ground. But again, I'm going to grow this next year solidly, just to make it healthy. I will chop the roots in the spring to get it into some bonsai medium and just let it grow and grow strongly before I start to chop the top around. Okay, I had to move the camera right back for this one. This was a medium tree that I bought in a supermarket last year for £10 as a potted tree, and again I just allowed it all this last year it's been fed and watered and allowed to grow on. It's probably grown a foot taller than it was, and is probably about 6 inches wider, that's all. But I'm not going to do anything to it now, except I am going to cut it down. So let's move the camera back in and look at that. Not a normal spruce, it's called an Armorica, which I know very little about. There doesn't seem to be much on the internet. Well, there wasn't last year, and I must look again. You can see where this pot has been bashed around, and just before I chop the top, I'm just going to see if I can... no, it's not going to come out very easily, but if I bring the pot up to the camera, you can see that the soil it's in is actually a grotty clay. The roots are sort of preferred coming out of the bottom rather than staying in it. So again, I think probably May-June time of 2021, this will be coming out of this pot and into something more suitable to try and get it into a healthy state, or healthier state root wise. Okay, so I'm just literally going to randomly chop at the top now, just because I'm not wanting a tree too tall. This looks like it could make a nice leader, so let us chop this centre portion out. Now I know you're going to say why you could gin that, and I'm going to say I could, but I'm probably looking at this being a shorter tree than this anyway. I'm not even going to do any wiring up, I'm just going to let it go now. Okay. I've just moved back out again to see this last one. This tree has been on the go now for several years, and it's actually pruned into what from a distance looks like quite a nice pot, I think, but is in actual fact a cat litter tray from a well-known supermarket. This tree has been in that tray for a couple of years now, and it's actually pruned into what from a distance looks like quite a nice pot, I think, but is in actual fact a cat litter tray from a well-known supermarket. This tree has been in that tray for a couple of years now, and from a well-known supermarket. This tree has been in that tray for a couple of years now, and soaked a little to begin with, but has grown away really nicely this last year. So let's move in, look at that pot and base. Pull some of these blessed weeds out. It's actually quite dry. In fact, a lot of my trees are looking dry at the moment. We haven't had particularly cold weather, but we haven't had particularly any rain either. So although everywhere is still very damp and muddy underfoot, I'm going to have to do some watering, because otherwise some of the trees are going to suffer. Fortunately, there's no frost forecast over the next few days, at least not in my part of the world, so it's not going to matter if I give them a good drenching. And this tree has been under a canopy of other trees in my neighbour's garden I overlook, hence it's got a lot of dead leaves and detritus on it, but as you can see, the roots have pushed through the bottom of the pot and making it so it doesn't want to sit flat on the non-functioning turntable. What I'm looking at is I'm quite liking the height of this tree. It's probably 3 foot tall now. If we come up to the top here, I actually chopped it. Let's move the camera back. Okay, so this tree was initially chopped. Actually, at this point here, we've got a new leader at the front here and also one at the back. And actually, I'm not entirely clear what is front or back on this tree at the moment. I believe this was the back. That's how I've had it placed in the garden. As I say, lots of debris. And it very much resembles a young tree, young Christmas tree that's been chopped about and left for a couple of years. I'm thinking I want to lose some of these lower limbs. I'm definitely thinking I want a tree starting in this kind of position here somewhere. So I'm going to just chop that back like so, and I will leave these stubs on. They may or may not feature in a final design, often hard to say. But I definitely think this needs to go. And that come off like so. Okay, so as I say, I can't emphasize enough that it is really important that you build a tree strong enough to take the bonsai experience that it needs to get to turn it from a Christmas tree into a bonsai tree. It's not an overnight thing. You need to get your hand on as healthy a specimen as you can find in the first place, and then try and build its health for a couple of years. And in that way you can then start to do some actual work on it. Okay, now I'm not thinking formal upright particularly. I'm actually thinking tree that's been a bit of a survivor. Not like in this wall of branches. That's another issue you get with these Christmas trees, is that you've got, well in this case there are 3 branches left, 4 branches left, all emanating from this point. but again I think I want to lose all of those, so I'm not worried about, I'm not left righting, centering. This is all coming off, but leaving these stubs that I think may be interesting to work with as gin at a later date. Leave that live branch there for now. Okay. Now I have got a number of small living little branches, even this low point, and I'm going to leave them because I think well, A, they will help the tree recover, and B, they give me future options should I mess things up terribly. I think some of you may be starting to realise by now I'm not going to wait for Christmas to work on this one. I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to take off this piece that's covering my front. I am guessing that I decided on the best Nabari when I placed this as the front of my tree, because honestly I don't entirely recall. But there you go. Okay, I'm going to shut up, move the camera slightly and carry on working, and we'll come back. We've got an interesting mess of an apex here. I'm going to lose this piece. Just at the moment we have, well, basically 3 sections of tree trying to be the leader. I'm going to take off all of this at the back. Okay, that is in actual fact giving me a nice bit of a leader, and then I might gin that piece in behind. Okay, so definitely going to need some wire, some quite chunky wire in places, and quite a lot more trimming, and it still won't be a thing of beauty, but will be a little bit more interesting, I hope. Got a chunky branch and a little branch coming from the same place. I'm taking out the chunky piece in favour of the smaller, and where I've got a lot of branches in one place I'm making some decisions as to which ones I like and which ones I don't. Okay, that's looking a bit clearer for an apex, and I'm going to turn the camera off now, put some wire on, and then we'll do some bends. And a bit more trimming. Okay, so that's the tree kind of wired. If I've done anything, I've made a mess, and as you can see there's quite a lot of material being chopped off, but I'm going to chop off some more. Okay, so I've chopped back the top quite hard. If I turn the tree, this piece I'm going to gin. Not now. I don't appear to have my grafting knife with me, which is a tool I like to use when I'm doing gins and things, but that'll come. We'll do that next year. I have pruned it back really quite tightly at the top here, and I wouldn't do that if the tree wasn't really healthy, really growing well. As I've said, a real secret, if there is one, to creating a Christmas tree bonsai, is get the tree healthy, and then you can do all sorts to it. If it's a weakened tree plucked from the field just for the Christmas market, you'll kill it the first year. And I've got videos on my channel to prove that, if you care to look at the playlist. So this branch, taking out some of these low hanging pieces I don't like. And just bringing the sides in and just working my way round, shortening stuff, not worrying too much about where buds are. This tree should back bud wherever there is green needles quite readily, because it is so healthy. Shorten back some of these growths. As you can see, there are still some of these small pieces that will keep helping the tree stay alive. They can be removed at a later date, unless I decide to keep them and reuse them further down the line. You can always take off a branch later. You can't necessarily get one back where you've taken one from. So again, I'm not fussing too much about pads, creating a pad of foliage, so much as bringing the tree back into line, into a broad sort of triangle, and it'll take a lot more refining down the years. Zoom in. Of course, I haven't killed it, but I don't think I have. Okay, so that's not looking too bad. Quite pleased with that. I'm thinking this is my front, kind of here. I'd like that branch to come down a little more droopy. It's still a little bit long. Now these spruce are very unlikely to shoot on old wood. It's not entirely unheard of, but they should back bud in any of these areas where they have some green. So I have needles back to here, so hopefully I could get buds popping in this plane. That we will have to wait and see, of course. Okay, a couple more areas I'd like to put a bit of wire on at the top here. Okay, so loop that around there just to anchor it. Try not to trap needles if I can help it. And there we go, and that kind of exposes that wannabe gin. Got a bit of a T branch going on here, so I'm going to remove this one because I've got more growth on this side. less here, so that gives it a better balance. This little branch might come over and take over, take that out. Yeah, that'll do. Now this is definitely not one of those videos where you see some world-renowned expert take a tree and turn it into a masterpiece in one fell swoop, but I don't believe in those anyway. I have it on good authority from somebody in the know that, that most of those trees that you see done for exhibitions, where all the work's done in one go and then they're raffled off, most of those trees die in the first year, and the poor people that have spent money on raffle tickets and go home really happy with a tree created by an expert. And don't get me wrong, these people are brilliant, and when they've got trees that they work on in their own time, they are brilliant trees, but those are the ones that are rushed. They don't survive because they've had too much work done in one go, and it's about the show, not the tree. Oh, I'm sorry, ranting. Okay, so let's move the camera back again. Okay, yeah, that's better. Alrighty, hopefully you don't think I've made a complete pig's ear of this tree, and if you do, don't be shy, let me know. I'm more than happy to take constructive criticism. Any comments are always welcome. I hope you've enjoyed this video, I really do. This is for me to say I'm going to take a week or so off uploading over Christmas, so I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll be back in January and lots more to come. Do the YouTube like, subscribe, comment, and most of all, please do look after yourselves, everybody. Stay safe.